Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney with you as always. Thanks for taking the time to hang out here today. A lot to get to on this show. There are 5 games on the ice. It's Henrik Lundqvist night in New York at MSG. They're going to raise his number to the rafters. And it's Daryl Sydor night in Dallas. That's right. Do you remember Daryl Sydor? Some pretty good Stars teams back in the early 2000s, late 90s. You know, Modano, Sydor, Hatcher, Langenbrunner, Brendan Morrow, Eddie Belfour. There are a lot of good Dallas players back in Sydor's era with the Stars. We got some NHL picks and some props to get to in a little bit. There's 11 games on the hard court. We got some NBA picks and props to get to a little bit too, but it's mostly going to be a lot of NFL, a little bit of baseball talk as well. I got a great guest here, my former colleague. That's right. We didn't work together in the bigs around the diamonds, but we did have an opportunity to work together over at The Athletic for a couple years. Brad Ziegler is going to join the show here today, a former baseball pitcher. Of course, you are well aware. He's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. He's also a big Jayhawks fan. I cheer for the Jayhawks as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about Kansas. It's been a crazy week and a half for Brad with the Jayhawks and the big comeback about a week and a half ago. And then they had the double overtime win against Texas Tech. And then that crazy game last weekend against the Buffalo Bills. Want to get Brad's thoughts on the game, how he's feeling. Also, got to talk to him about MLB just a little bit. You know, maybe some rapid-fire fun questions. I know he's hanging out watching right now. Some fun questions, maybe best park he's ever pitched, maybe the worst park he's ever pitched. Big Poppy. We got to ask him about his former teammate, Big Poppy. I also want to get his thoughts on the Hall of Fame as well, because it's been a big topic, not only on this show, but across every sports platform. There's been a lot of talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame, but we will be diving into the Chiefs and, of course, the Bengals. And on the other side, we have the Rams and the 49ers. I have some picks and some props to get to as well. We've touched on a lot of everything all week. I told you guys on Monday morning, I jumped on Cincinnati plus 7.5, and I jumped on San Fran plus 3.5. I'm not coming off of that. I like both of those picks. It's where I'm leaning. And I don't think either of those teams get to the Super Bowl. I do believe we will see a Rams and Chiefs Super Bowl, and I think it'll be highly entertaining if that is the case. With no disrespect to what's going on in Cincinnati and San Francisco, who have won 6 straight games against the Rams. And I don't know what happened to the Bengals. Like, does anybody else feel like they're starting to be a little bit cocky lately? I understand confidence is huge, and you got to have it. You got to have the swagger. I love the Joe Burrow cigars after all the wins. I like it all. I'm here for it. But CJ Uzomah comes out and says the Titans were afraid of the Bengals. Stop it. Just stop it. Nobody, like, come on. Seriously. They weren't afraid. Maybe they should have been, but they weren't afraid. And I'll tell you what, the Chiefs are definitely not afraid, but that should be a highly entertaining game here. Who had Meaney? No hat plus 250. Am the artist cashed in on that. A couple things to get to off the top of the show. Tino, if you want to bring up for those who are in Louisiana and make a couple bets, we got a couple, some promos here. The link is going to be inside the description of this video. If it's not already, it will be there after this show immediately. A couple things, as you see here, a lot of just kind of risk-free things happening right now. Louisiana today with the launch, a new sports bettor can get up to $1,000 deposit bonus at DraftKings by clicking the promo link inside the description of this video. So a lot of just free bet stuff happening. You know, bet $10, get $250, all kinds of greatness if you are in Louisiana. So wanted to get that to your attention off the top of this show. And then quickly, just talk a little bit about the 3 stars in the NHL last night. Also, yesterday was one of the worst days I think I've had betting in quite some time. We didn't have a great day. We hit a lot of shot props. It's just Brian Russ kind of screwed us in a lot of our parlays, and, some upsets in the NHL for sure. We had Carolina win by 2. They win in a shootout last night. We had the upset for the Vegas Golden Knights to go into Florida. I mean, my goodness, right? I mean, why am I betting against the Panthers? They're like now 20-3 on home ice. They're phenomenal. Vegas was in that game. It was 2-1 late and then 4-1, a couple empty net goals, and away you go. And then another one off the top of my head I can't really think of right now, but it certainly burned us last night. Oh, the Rangers. We had the Rangers to win in 60, and that didn't work out despite outshooting Columbus, I think 22-3 or 4 in the third period. Nonetheless, we'll try to rebound here here in a little bit, but these are the 3 stars from last night. JT Miller had the hat trick, 4 points, 2 power play points, 5 shots on goal. His name is all over trade rumors right now. He would be a good get, a great get for anybody looking to acquire a top 6 forward who could do it all. Could play at center, could play on the wing, on the power play, can PK for you. He's a great fantasy asset too. Win double-digit faceoff, throws his body around as well. He's good in takeaway leagues. He's a phenomenal player. He could go back to the Rangers. He has been rumored to get traded to New York, maybe Calgary. There's a lot of teams that could use JT Miller for sure. And then Trevor Ziegler, right? The Michigan-style goal last night. He did it again. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. He had 2 goals last night against the Montreal Canadiens, 4 shots on goal. The Habs lose yet again. But Ziegler has been a highlight reel, man. He's been unbelievable. And somewhere John Tortorella is saying, I don't care. It's not good for the game. What he is doing is not good for the game. It's awesome for the game. It's fantastic. The confidence and the swagger that Trevor Ziegler has. I'll tell you what, more confidence and swagger than CJ Uzomah has or should have for the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a fantastic goal last night for Ziegler. And then I was looking back at the 2019 draft just quickly, and I know that we're only a couple years removed, and there's a lot of good players that were drafted ahead of Zegras. Jack Hughes, number 1. Capo Caco, number 2. I don't know. Like, Zegras at 9 seems like an absolute steal by the Anaheim Ducks, and the Oilers had the 8th pick. That's all I will say. And they passed on Zegras. And then Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner, 2 goals, 3 points, had a power play point, had 6 hits, had double-digit faceoff wins. His ownership in Yahoo leagues is only 34%. He absolutely does it all. He is one of those touch-em-all guys that I've talked a lot about, since I've had a microphone and been able to talk fantasy hockey. It's just, he hits every single category for you. In a bangers league, he's phenomenal. He throws his body around. He can chip in offensively. He's one of the rare forwards that gets over 20 minutes night in and night out, plays in all situations, and another guy that can help you out if you are playing in leagues with face-off wins. All right, that's it. I'm wearing the Big Poppy shirt here. You can't see it right now, but we're going to bring in Big Poppy's former teammate. It's Brad Ziegler. He's going to drop by. Of course, we know him from his days with Oakland, Arizona, Boston, Miami. 100-plus saves, sub-3 ERA, but does it even count because he threw underhand? Hey, I'm not taking shots. That's right there from his Twitter description. Ziegler's in here next. Keep her locked. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney as we bring in Brad Ziegler, of course, the former MLB hurler, also a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and my former co-host, Oh, baby, the kingdom. And look at all those balls behind you. Man, you got this setup, the best setup I think we've ever seen here yet. Brad, man, it's been a long time. I know we're in communication here and there, but man, it really does feel like a long time since we've chatted. Thanks for taking the time, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you? It's been, like you said, it's been a long time since we chatted, and I forgot how your Canadian accent gets even bigger in hockey season.
Yeah, it does. No, everybody could tell that I am north of the border, and I love a little bit of hockey. You do as well. You're a big hockey fan as well. You're just a straight up all around sports fan, man.
Yeah, I like picking teams and being a little diversified. I don't do a lot of soccer, and there's a few other sports that I MMA stuff I don't really get into, but I do like hockey. And the best thing about hockey to me is just going to games. Once you go to games, you get a different feel than watching it on TV, and especially playoff hockey. Like once you go to a playoff hockey game, it's easy to get hooked, and it doesn't even matter if you have a team or not.
Yeah, and I know you follow the Sharks pretty closely, so you've probably been to a couple of San Jose Sharks playoff games. I mean, the past couple of years have been rough, but they went through a moment where they were always there in the playoffs, Brad.
Yeah, it was fun, and I feel like right now they're surprising a little bit, especially with their big time negative goal differential and still above 500. So they're hanging around, and hopefully they can make a move here late. But it's I feel like this team's overachieving a little bit, and when they lost Pavelski, it just kind of Pavelski and Thornton kind of signaled the start of a rebuild, and they've tried to keep some guys around, but it's just not the same level of talent that they had before.
No, not at all. More on Pavelski a little bit later on in the show. He is crushing it for the Dallas Stars these days. So I see you have your voice back. Man, a crazy couple weeks, I suppose, for, not only just a Chiefs fan, for somebody that follows the Jayhawks, right? I mean, you had the big comeback win against Kansas State, and then they had the double overtime thriller against Texas Tech. They got Kentucky here this weekend, and then that Chiefs game against the Bills. Like, tell me the emotions that went through you during that game, and be honest. With 13 seconds left, when Allen marched up the field again and hit Davis for the fourth touchdown, did you think that was it? It was over?
I honestly did. So when Tyreek Hill scores with 1:02 left, we're jumping around the house like crazy. I'm screaming. My little boy, who's 7 years old, and this is really the first year he's really getting into sports. Before that, it was like he could care less if I was watching it. Like, now he's really into it. He's jumping around and screaming to the point where, like, he started crying. Like, he was like, and he goes, "Daddy, I'm so happy I'm crying." And I don't even know if I've ever had that emotion with sports, from a joy side. Well, then, the Bills march down the field and score with 13 seconds left. And it's hard to explain to him. I try to tell him, like, buddy, like, this is one of the best things about sports, but it's hard to see that right now, where you can go from joy and absolute elation to just complete heartbreak so fast. And it was just like, gosh, I can't believe, like, as improved as the defense had been all year, that they just collapsed in the fourth quarter. And and you get the Bills defense could probably say the same thing. Yeah. But it was just like there was no stopping either quarterback in that moment. And it just felt like at that point, well, this is probably it. And then they run that first little play, and then the Bills call timeout, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, we're a drop pass, just a incomplete pass away. Everything's got to be perfect. It's got to be a quick play that we can somehow get down the field far enough to even, I was listening to Feely saying, Butker's good from 57. Like, I know he's got that in him, but in a cold, super cold weather and stuff, like, that would have been all adrenaline if he had that much in him. But then they, get tackled on the 40 and it becomes or 30 and it becomes a 48-yarder. I'm like, okay, well, that's definitely doable. And then you start having all the thoughts in your head. He already missed an extra point this game. He already missed a field goal that it wasn't a distance issue. It was a 50-yarder, but he just missed it wide. And it's like, we wouldn't even be in this position potentially if that stuff hadn't happened. And now at the same time, we're relying on this guy who's been so good for a lot of the season and a lot of his career. And we're all just sitting there holding our breath. And, he makes the field goal, and then we're going like crazy. And it's hard to explain to my 7-year-old son how overtime works, because he's not that into it. I'm like, buddy, we need to win this coin toss. Like, we're not stopping the Bills if they win the coin toss. We have to win the coin toss. And so he celebrated as much for the coin toss when we won it as much as he did for
'Cause he just knew
Tyreek
it
Hill's
was over.
touchdown. Yeah, he's like, at that point, he's like, Daddy tells me we're gonna win, then I'm gonna go with what Daddy says. So, so it was fun, man. It was, you know, it was a late night for them, and so having the kids up extra late, it was, you know, a ton of emotion. And then you start worrying about the letdown of like, okay, well, now can they get it back going to play the Bengals? And if they hadn't played the Bengals in the regular season, I would be way more worried. But the fact that just like a month ago, we got our butts kicked, especially in the second half. I think we had like 3 offensive possessions, couldn't do anything offensively. And after putting up 28 in the first half, and I think it's so fresh in their minds where they're able, you know, and Andy Reid's good at that, but they're able to just turn around and focus right away and say, look, like, yeah, we won this game, and a lot of people are going to talk about it, but we haven't accomplished anything yet. We've got to get back to the Super Bowl to even achieve our number 1 goal for the season.
A couple things I want to get to from that matchup, and then this one, and some keys that you think potentially, you know, keys to the game, or maybe some adjustments that, you know, Kansas City may make. But a couple things when you're talking about that story. Do you think that, were you surprised that the Bills kicked it like a squib kick just to kill a couple seconds? Is anything? I know it's easy to sit back and say now, and you trust your number one defense in the NFL, right, that you're going to be able to stop Mahomes 13 seconds. But I'm with you, man. As soon as that first play happened, and Romo was saying it too. I mean, oh my goodness, like they're in a pretty good opportunity here. One more of these throws, and to your point, Butker from 57, 58, whatever. I know when Feely was saying that he could do 57, 58, or maybe 60 career longs, and Romo started getting super excited. But do you think, like in hindsight, it's easy for the Bills to say, okay, well, maybe we should have squib kicked it. But were you surprised that they kicked it back like through the end zone?
I didn't know if they would squib kick it as much as they would try to kick it and force a longer return, like make him catch it on inside the 5, sure, and run it out. Then, like, yeah, you're running the risk of a touchdown, which is always possible. But if you tackle him at all, that play takes up most of the clock. Whereas a squib kick, most likely someone else fields it besides Hardman or whoever's back deep, and they probably run for 4 or 5 seconds. And Dave Tobe said it yesterday in the press conference. He said, like, it probably takes 4 or 5 seconds off the clock, but we might get the ball at the 40-yard line. Well, the play to Kelsey took 5 seconds off the clock and the play to Tyreek put us basically at the 40 with 5 seconds off the clock. So it's kind of a wash. But by kicking it deep, you're putting the trust in your defense at that point. And
right.
So he understood it. Like it seemed like they were prepared for either scenario, and it's just the lack of coverage on Kelsey on that next play to me was like the thing that doesn't make sense. I double team him. I don't like him, Tyreek, like, it's going to one of those 2 guys because they're not going to trust anybody else to make a catch in that scenario and get far enough downfield. But it was like unbelievably soft shell zone coverage and
silly.
Then it just seemed like the Bills, it felt like the Bills thought they had won the game with 13 seconds left, and they didn't really need to do anything, which would have been the case if the Chiefs didn't have timeouts. But by having the timeouts, you can't, like, I don't know. I think they probably learned a huge lesson about taking stuff for granted.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, those timeouts are obviously huge to have those in the back pocket. I loved hearing Kelsey too. I mean, mic'd up after talking 10, hey 10, like on the sidelines, 10. I mean, the throw to you, follow me. I'm gonna fake to go outside and follow me. We'll get some blocking and that worked out perfectly. And then talking to Mahomes again, saying, listen, I mean, if they're gonna continue to play soft, let's do the same thing. I'm gonna run out and a quick like fake to the sidelines and then go. And then you actually hear Mahomes. I mean, I went back and watched the game again. It's phenomenal. To watch it and to hear those, like, the play calling at the line and saying, do it. Phenomenal stuff, man. You got one more game to go. One thing I wanted to ask you, though, as you were talking about the pressure of a kicker, what do you think? More pressure for a game-winning field goal like that, or for you to come in a ball game, maybe in the bottom of the 9th with the bases juiced? What do you think is more pressure for a pitcher like you to come in and close the door, or a kicker to punch his ticket to the next round?
Yeah, no offense to Butker, but what a relief pitcher does, it's actually not a lot dissimilar, because you typically don't get to celebrate a relief pitcher very much. Most of the time they are talked about when they blow a game, and
yes,
you have to set a record or hit close out a World Series or something to even get a replay of the last out of a game. And so whereas the kicker, like, there are things that he can do all game long that either help or hurt his situation at the end. we don't have that scenario. Like, we're just chilling down there for 2.5 hours. You know, the mercy of the game is what it is. And then, you know, it's, hey, get ready and go. And I, you know, there were a couple times like I had bases loaded scenarios where they bring me in the middle of the 9th inning, 1 out, you know, tying run on third base or tying run on second. And it's like, all right, no margin for error. Get us out of this one way or another. Get us out of this. And, you know, fortunately I was able to do it a couple times, at least the times that stick in my head, I was able to do it. I might've blown it a couple times too, but I forgot those.
Is there any, when you were talking about the emotion of just a fan sitting back and watching, and you're talking about your young fellow sitting back and watching, is there any emotions that come to your mind, highs and lows, more particularly highs when you were a big leaguer?
Yeah, for sure. It's, you know, I've got pictures, you know, here around my office of, you know, and this was, you know, one of the scenarios that I've got a photo of. I wasn't even in the game. I was in the bullpen, but it was Team USA 2009 World Baseball Classic. We're playing against Puerto Rico for the right to go to the final round. And the USA had never been to the final round. And we're losing by a run going to that 9th inning. And David Wright hit a walk-off single to win the game. And the celebration of that moment, I don't know that like at any point in my career, I don't know that I ever felt the same inside that I did in that moment, you know, with the stars and stripes on my chest and, you know, just the opportunity to represent my country and feeling like this might be as close to a playoff game as I ever get. I don't know how long my big league career is going to be. And that was the spring after my rookie year. So I was just happy to be there and be a part of that. And to be there with, you know, it was Jeter and Jimmy Rollins and you know, David Wright, like I said, Chipper Jones is on that team. Kevin Youkilis, just a ton of talent on that team. And for me to be part of it was, you know, like one of those things that like 10 years later, when my career was winding down, that was still the number one moment of my career, was a game that I didn't even pitch in.
Amazing. You bring up Youkilis. I watched Moneyball the other day. Again, it's one of my faves, and you know I love when they're looking at the tape, and he's got this waddle, but the Red Sox are going to see. The Red Sox are going to see about him. He had a fantastic career as well. There's a lot of people who are asking questions. Tino, if you can follow through some of the questions, if you can filter through any good ones, we'll do it in the next segment with Brad. I want to get back to this Chiefs game here this weekend, though. We have a 7-point spread. Most spots are 7.5 in on some books here. The total at 54.5. Do you feel like this game will be a lot like the other one? A lot of just high-powered offense, a lot of scoring here. And I know you're a big Chiefs guy, but honestly, like, what does your gut tell you about this game? I think the Kansas City wins, but do you think that Cincinnati is going to be able to hang with these guys? You know, clearly they did a couple weeks ago, Brad, but this is different. It's playoffs. Back in your own barn. I know that the Bengals are practicing all week, you know, with the noise simulation, but this is going to be the loudest I think Joe Burrow has ever heard a stadium at Arrowhead this weekend. What does your gut tell you about this game here this weekend?
So, I you know, obviously I'm a little biased here, but I don't think in the frame that they're in right now, I don't think the Chiefs offense can be stopped, especially I don't trust the Bengals defense. Now, that said, after last week, it's hard to trust the Chiefs defense, but they were pretty good for 3 quarters against the Bills. It was 21-21 going into the 4th quarter. And you saw Mahomes flip a switch that Burrow has in my you know experience of watching him, at least as an NFL quarterback, he's never had to flip a switch like that. And I don't think he's got that in him yet, especially when they beat them before. It felt like every play that they needed to make went perfectly their way. They had, you know, some referee calls go their way. They had Jamar Chase, you know, catching every single 50-50 ball that was thrown. And I realize that's part of his game, but I think the Chiefs are going to do something to make it to where he doesn't go for, you know, 200 plus against him again, whether it's put a safety over the top, you know, put somebody different on him that covers him differently than Charvarius Ward did, one way or another. However, that they're going to make an adjustment. It's going to have to be either Mixon, T. Higgins, or Tyler Boyd beating them, in my opinion. Because they're if they do it twice, everybody's going to look and be like, look, they just showed you this is their game plan against you. You've got to make an adjustment. That's something that Spagnuolo is really good at. Is, you know, he didn't make any adjustments in that game, and I question that, but I think he learned from it. Like, you hear his comments later, and you know, I think he knows. Put a safety over the top or whatever you got to do. You know, hopefully they get Tyrann Mathieu back this week, and
sure.
Because that losing him, basically the third play of the game against the Bills was a big loss for their secondary, and you could see that play out late in the game with lack of communication stuff. If he's back this week, then I'd say there's a good chance that assuming he stays healthy all through the game, that they're going to be able to make some of those secondary adjustments they need to make. I think it will be a high scoring game, but I see the Chiefs covering. I've got them winning by 10, but more like a 45-35 kind of game.
Yeah, I think we'll see some points too. I definitely think we'll see some adjustments on Chase. I mean, you have to, right? The breakaway speed is phenomenal from him. I know you play in a lot of best ball leagues. Did you have any shares of Jamar Chase?
Oh yeah, I was a big believer. I didn't. I tried to take advantage of it was when he was dropping all the balls in preseason, and he started falling. He started falling in drafts, and I'm like, all right, now I feel like he's a value instead of having to grab him in the 5th, 6th round like he was going before that. So I did end up with quite a few shares of him, and obviously at the end of the season, and at times during the season before that, but at the end of the season, he was just incredible, and you could see Burrow just get more comfortable. I think probably from a health standpoint, just understanding the game and the offense a little more, and it just feels like with them, it's either a T. Higgins game or a Jamar Chase game, and there's rarely a game where they both just go nuts. And so to me, it's figure out what their game plan is. If it's Chase, stop Chase, make them make an adjustment and see if they can actually do that, because they run an offense that reminds me a lot of a college offense. And there's not a lot of tricks to it. It's just like, it's kind of a run and shoot. Here we go. But it looks like Burrow kind of gets in patterns of like, this guy's open, I'm going to keep looking his way. And I want to see him, force them to get to his 3rd and 4th read, because I don't think their O-line holds up if that happens.
Well, you mentioned the O-line. I mean, I brought this up yesterday on the show. We got a break and we'll bring you back here. Just wanted to quickly bring this up. So this is from Next Gen Stats. Kansas City's pass rush win rate, 45%, the 7th best mark in the league. A season high 59% week 17 against the Bengals. And that's the issue with Cincinnati, right? 30th in NFL pass block win rate at 50%. So that is going to be a key to try to protect Burrow. And I noticed in that game too, especially in the 4th quarter, they kind of protected with 7 and, just have the 3 kind of the both wideouts and Higgins and Chase like kind of mirror route runs and just quick throws that way. I think that's probably going to be the game plan to try to protect Burrow and see how that works. Brad, hang on for one more segment, dude. There's a couple other things I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to get your thoughts on the 49ers Rams as well. So
sounds good.
Going to hang around for one more segment. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Keep her locked. Chris Meaney and Brad Ziegler here on Mean Streets, a Game Plus Network, hanging out on a Friday. Appreciate Brad hanging out here. One more thing I wanted to ask you about Kansas City and Cincinnati, just maybe an underrated play in that Kansas City game. I know, you got Mahomes and Hill and Kelsey. I mean, obviously the 3 studs. Is there an underrated play you think? Is it Jerick McKinnon? I mean, Byron Pringle seems to get a touchdown every single game. That guy to me is underrated. I think he's good. Is there like a sneaky little play from this game that you have, like somebody that you think will show up?
Yeah, I don't know how sneaky he is, but I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this game. I think there's he looked really good and almost like fresh coming out last week, and they're starting over the course of the season when he was playing, they started using him a little more in the passing game where he was running routes as opposed to like dump offs and stuff like that. And here lately too, the last couple of games, they've run a couple really effective screen passes with McKinnon. If they run CEH in that same role. I don't see, he's it's not, he doesn't have quite the same explosiveness McKinnon does, but with blockers in front of him, he's got so much wiggle when he's in space that I just feel like there's an opportunity for him to beat up the Bengals linebackers a little bit and, maybe score a couple touchdowns. And I don't know. I think there's a chance that he ends up having a really big game. And especially if they do get up, like I'm hoping they do, then he might be, doing some clock milking late in the game too.
Yeah, I actually do think he's sneaky. If you look at some projections and even just odds, I think, books are feeling like it could be a McKinnon game that he could have the lead. But, CEH getting in there towards the end of that last game had a nice run in that game against the Bills too. I am a fan. And he's going to be I don't want to say a draft day steal next year, Brad, but he's going to be a guy that doesn't go in the first couple of rounds, right? As somebody that you can get maybe as your RB2 in fantasy. And we know the upside still in that offense. I think people are a little sour on him. Let's switch over to the 49ers and the Rams. So the Rams have lost 6 straight games here against San Fran, lost both games to them this year. Playoffs are a completely different story, though. Do you have a take or feel on, who you think will advance and go to the Super Bowl?
So obviously the Rams have been playing well. I really have a hunch the Niners win this game. I think what Debo is doing, especially in the second half when they started giving him running back carries and stuff, I don't know that there's another receiver in football that could do it. Like even if other teams tried it with their guys, he's so big and strong, but he doesn't seem to mind the contact. And there's a lot of receivers that could not physically take that punishment, especially with a guy who's had a little bit of an injury history. So I just think and Jimmy G, like, I know his statistics are not good, but Debo said it on Twitter yesterday, the dude can win. And I feel like this is a game where he has a chance to really put himself in a position to either be the starter again in San Fran next year, or if they do want to move him, go to another team where he's going to be a starter for that team too, and not just, looking for a backup job at some point. I just think that there's they've got something going there that is not, it's a momentum thing. The Rams kind of limped into the playoffs and then have played really well in the playoffs. And I guess more than anything, my heart says I don't want the Chiefs to have to play a second road game Super Bowl in a row. Like they had to go to Tampa to play the Bucs last year. I don't want them to have to play the Rams in LA again this year. So, hopefully the Niners win and we can at least have a neutral site Super Bowl.
And Chiefs Nation, I mean, they travel really well. We talked about that this week as well. I mean, it would be a home game for the Rams, but Matthew Stafford found it pretty loud in week 17 or 18 against San Fran when the 49ers kind of took over that stadium as well. Okay, I have to ask you about some baseball stuff, of course.
Sure.
Your former teammate, Big Papi, into the Hall of Fame, first ballot. What can you tell us about Big Papi? If you agree or you don't agree, that's fine. I think he's a Hall of Famer. We've had a lot of talk about Hall of Fame and things like that. But can you share a story from Big Papi? Maybe.
Yeah, sure. So that photo you can see right there. That's from my very first outing in Boston. First day I was on the team, and I'm walking off the field, giving everybody high fives, and he's waiting at the foul line. And I kind of stick my hand up to give him a high five, and he goes, no. I hug my cousins. And it was like his way of kind of welcoming me to the Red Sox family. So, and that meant a lot because it's his locker room, and I knew him very on the surface. Played against him for 8-9 years, and was just to the point where I could be like, hey David, how are you doing? And that would be the extent of the conversation. Then at that moment, it was like he's making me part of this Red Sox family, and that was a special team. We kind of collapsed a little bit at the end of that season after we clinched a playoff spot. Everything kind of went into a tailspin until the playoffs, and then we got swept by the Indians in the first round. But it was one of those scenarios where I think I'm walking into a locker room for the first time playing in a big market. I don't know what it's going to be like there. And that was the moment where I walked off the field. Everybody saw that. My friends and family are taking pictures of that moment, and they're like, dude, that was really cool. And I mean, I've got a painting. I had a painting made of that moment that I put on the wall, and David signed it for me. So it was just one of those really special moments where, like I said, it made me feel part of the Red Sox family. And to this day, I still get a Christmas card from the Red Sox every year. I get a Christmas card from David and his wife every year. It was just a really kind of special bonding moment and something I look back on very fondly. No, to go to the Hall of Fame talk, I definitely feel like he's a Hall of Famer, and people talk about the PEDs and comparing him to Bonds and Clemens and stuff. And I feel like I was very outspoken in my career against PED use. But when David tested positive, it was in the sample testing at the very beginning. Like the MLB was trying to find out, is this even the problem that a lot of people say it is? So he's doing the random testing, and his sample testing tested so low in the amount that he tested for, it was easily explained in a supplement that he bought over the counter. It wasn't anything like, oh, he's taking injections or anything like that. And from that moment on, they implemented testing. That was, I think, 2003-ish. And from that moment on, the guy played 13, 14 more years and never had any other kind of positive test, which tells me he didn't need that. Like at some point, that kind of wears off. He may not have even have been getting benefit from the small amount that was in his urine sample at that time. Whereas there are other guys who, like, their whole body changed. When you compare him to Bonds, one of the arguments that a lot of people say with Bonds is, well, he was a Hall of Famer before he started using. And my argument to that is, I don't know when he started using. I know when his body started to change sizes and his head supposedly grew, but I don't know. Maybe he was using in college at Arizona State, and it was just a different steroid that gave him fast twitch muscles, was not the bulky. Maybe he changed drugs he was using. Maybe just the science and the drugs is always getting better. There's always people trying to beat the system and make the drugs better. So maybe he just the drugs got better, and that's why all of a sudden his body started changing. But there's no way to know for me, like, this is exactly when he started using. And so I can't say he was a Hall of Famer before that. And that, to me, like, it was a blatant disregard for the rules of just don't tell me what you're doing to me. And, at least if you believe the book that was written, the Balco book, don't tell me what you're doing to me and go ahead and do it. Just don't, like that, that way I can kind of plead the fifth and not have, I don't know what they were putting on me. It was, it's whatever. It's this cream that they just rubbed on me. And I don't know. To me, it's just a different mentality of someone else who, has played a lot longer when testing got way more stringent, way more frequent. And it wasn't an issue for him ever again in his career. And I don't know, to me is the difference, is when someone, I don't mind, even if he did it on purpose the first time, but he made an adjustment and played for a long time after that. But you just didn't see, like, that was not his game. His game was not to be stronger and faster. Like, it was just like, I'm just going to swing for the fences pretty much every time. Like, the dude still got thrown out at second plenty of times after hitting balls off the monster. So it's just, it was a different mentality to me. And I feel like I'm willing to forgive people when they make a mistake. I'm not willing to forgive people who frequently make the same mistake over and over again, like an A-Rod type where, you test positive and then you test positive again, then you test positive again. And there's all these rumors that it was going on back in high school for him. I just can't put them in the same category because there's a pattern there that I can't ignore.
We kind of got to get out of here. I got 3 more seconds with 10 minutes. I wish I could, prolong this conversation with you. It's fantastic. It's just quickly, yes or no. I have a feeling no, you don't think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't. I understand the argument for people that do, but I don't. Okay,
you don't. Same thing with Clemens? No?
Yeah, same.
Okay, same thing. Okay. Favorite ballpark ever to pitch in? Fenway?
As a home team, yeah, for sure. But I think my favorite park was actually Pittsburgh. I just love the park. Yeah, a lot of history there and good fan base. After they started winning a little bit, and I just really enjoyed every trip there.
And there was another when you played in Oakland. Did the Raiders play there too? What was that?
Yeah.
What was that like? Because could you tell me that in 30 seconds? It was awful. It was
yeah.
Brutal,
so
right?
Every August they start playing preseason games on the field, and the field just gets shredded. And they started spray painting the grass areas green because there were no grass left. It was just dirt. And then the mound, they would have to take the pitching mound off the field and then put it back on for the baseball games. And so the dirt would be super loose all the time. Like, it was a mess. It's,
So
it has to be great for
worst
Oakland.
park you've ever pitched in then. I mean, your A's
Wrigley.
fans will probably be like, whoa,
Wrigley.
whoa. Oh, Wrigley?
It's got to be Wrigley. Yeah, I hated Wrigley's clubhouse. I didn't like the field. I love the history there, but it's so uncomfortable there all the time. And I never like smallest locker rooms. Like their locker room was smaller than my office for 40 guys in September. It was brutal.
And all those balls you have behind you, are those balls maybe balls that you pitch in, or balls that you've got your former teammates and players signed?
Yeah, they're all autographs. So there's like three or four rows in the middle are all Hall of Famers. The balls in the home plate behind me are all like that's my 21 best baseballs. And then all the rest of them are just like stars that maybe weren't Hall of Famers, but I felt like they were worthy of being on the wall.
But do you have a Mike Trout? I mean, come on.
Oh yeah,
you got a Mike Trout.
Trout's,
you got one too.
Trout's in my home plate. Like there's no doubt he's one of the 21 best.
I love it. Brad, you're fantastic, buddy. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Good luck this weekend to your Chiefs, and go Jayhawks, man. We're going to turn the page and talk a little NHL. Keep her locked. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Ziegler was fantastic, man. I wish I had more time to talk to him, but we're going to rapid fire through these next three segments. Let's start here in the NHL. I got some props here for you guys. I know that Bryan Rust, he burned us yesterday, but you got to have a short memory with these things. He's got a better matchup here against Detroit. Maybe that was just in the Kraken. Maybe that was my bad. Maybe we don't take shot props against the Seattle Kraken. I do like Rust. I'm going back to him. You guys know I like ROOPE HINTZ. I also like Joe Pavelski in that same game. But for ROOPE HINTZ, he's cleared 2.5 in 7 of his past 8 games. Joel Eriksson Ek hit for us the other night. He had 4 shots. Is 3 games since he's returned to the lineup. His last 2 have been really good. He's got 11 shots over the last 2 games. One of those games, he had 7 shots in there. No Nate McKinnon here tonight. KADRI's going to get more ice time. He's already been playing on the top power play, but he could get center 1 here this evening. 3.5 shots. He's cleared that in 5 of his past 6. Brad Marchand, a pretty good price considering the matchup against Arizona. He cleared that in his last game as well. The previous games before that, he wasn't. He moved up to 3.5, and I think because of a couple slow games from him, he jumped back down or dropped down to 2.5, but I like him at 2.5 shots. And then you see Bryan Rust there. I think Chris Letang is in a pretty good spot as well, over 2.5. So those are the guys I'm riding with. I have a few more that I like in our FTN bet tracker. Tino, let's keep things going here. Whatever you got for us. Oh yeah, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a parlay here. All these players to get a point. HINTZ, Russ, MAKAR, and BERGERON. And then adding in KAPRIZOV. 5 is a lot to ask for. Maybe you can combo it, but I do think that these guys hit the score sheet today. The guy that I like the least is actually KAPRIZOV, even though he has been a point magnet. I mean, he's been unbelievable. Basically a point per game since he's been, he has been over a point per game since he's been in the NHL. He just hit the century mark. His last game, 100 points in, I think, 92, 94 games or something like that. But a bit of a tougher matchup against Shesterkin and company. I think for HINTZ, Rusk, MAKAR, and BERGERON, if you did that, that would pay nearly 4-1 for ROOPE HINTZ at home. He's got 23 points in 18 games, and we know that Bryan Rust has been really good at home, over a point per game at home as well. Keep things going here, Tino. What else do you have for us? Oh, the goal scorers. So big on KADRI, big on ROOPE HINTZ. HINTZ has got goals in 4 straight games. We talked about just the success that the Pavelski, Robertson, and HINTZ line have had this season. All 3 of those guys, again, are plus money for an assist. I mean, Pavelski's got points in 13 of his past 14. ROOPE HINTZ has 85 points in 86 games, 30 points over his last 22 games. He's hit the score sheet in 19 of 22. And then ROOPE HINTZ got 36 points in 38 games. All of these guys plus money for an apple here tonight, but I like HINTZ to continue the success and find the back of the net. You guys know that I'm on Marchand and Russ for shot props, so hoping that they can find the back of the net with one of their 3 shots, hopefully. And then Artemi Panarin we hit last night. I'm going right back to him at plus 198. And this is what I'm thinking here for straight up picks. I like the Stars at home. A bit of a lengthy road trip. Come back home. I'm not buying into the Washington Capitals. I don't think they're getting good goaltending, and the defense has been a little shaky. It's Daryl Sador night, sure. It's also Henrik Lundqvist night in New York. Do I feel a little bit uneasy about picking Minnesota Wild tonight on Henrik Lundqvist night? Sure. But the Wild not playing in a back-to-back. New York playing in a back-to-back. The Wild, they got it going on, man. They got a really good team. There's also a couple former Lundqvist teammates on there on the Wild as well. Matt Zuccarello. We got Cam Talbot between the pipes. The Avalanche to win in 60. The over in that Washington-Dallas game, also like goals in Pittsburgh. Not many goals between the Rangers and the Wild. Under 6, 2 strong goaltending, two strong goalies rather, and then the over or the under between Boston and Arizona. I'm trying to rapid fire through all this. I got some NFL props in here. Next, Tino's going to have about 40 seconds, of course, to give you his favorite NBA picks, but don't go anywhere. Lots to get to on Mean Streets. All right, going to continue the props and the picks, but this is for championship week here. A lot of bets over at FTNBets.com, and you can check out the Sunday morning betting show with Elliot Chris, Matthew Freeman, and myself. Sorry about the rapid fire guys here towards the end. Just wanted to have more time with Brad. I thought he was just fantastic. Cam Akers over 2.5 catches and 18.5 receiving yards. We hit the over on his catches and his receiving yards last week. He has 8 targets and 7 grabs in his 3 games this season. Remember, he was very limited in one of those games. He got all 3 of his targets last week. We had him for over 3.5 catches last week. I'm surprised that it's 2.5 here. Or sorry, we had him 2.5 last week, but it was plus money. Now it's juiced up here, but 60 receiving yards in the 2 playoff games, 20 last week and 40 the week before. I think he is going to get a couple catches from Matthew Stafford. We've seen some real wheel routes from Cam Akers in the 2 games as well. And then Joe Mixon, we hit this last week, going right back to it. Not seeing a catch prop that I like at 3.5 is juice, but this is a guy who's clearly been involved in the offense over the past, few games. He's racked up 26 targets, 23 catches, and 189 yards in his last 4 games, 10 grabs, and 79 yards in the 2 playoff games. I do believe that the Bengals will be playing from behind here. Deebo Samuel, 97 receiving yards and 95 receiving yards in his 2 games against the Rams this season. He's averaging 87.8 receiving yards per game this season. He's topped this number in 13 of 16. He's one of the best in the NFL after the catch. In fact, he is yards on average after the catch, and yards per catch he is. So he's a beast. He can do this on 1 or 2 grabs. And then Elijah Mitchell, over 17.5 rushing attempts. He's done this pretty consistently over the past few games. 21 plus in 6 of his last 7 games. 21 and 27 in both games against the Rams, and averaging 23 carries per game over that span as well. And then OBJ, it's OBJ season. We're taking the over there, and I like the over 4.5 catches plus money as well. A whole lot more in our FTN bet tracker. Tino's in here next. Keep her locked. Ladies and gentlemen, Tino Rodriguez, go. Unmute your mic and go.
Unmute myself first. All right, so we actually have some good value here in the NBA today, better than yesterday. And for one, we'll start off with a nice little revenge game narrative. But this is a team that we've talked up. We got them as underdogs against the Thunder somehow 2 games ago, and we were able to capitalize on it. I decided to not listen to myself and bet the Raptors against them, which was a mistake. And, you know, to give them credit, Zach LaVine's back. Vooch has been playing better, and the Bulls just should not be plus 100 underdogs against the San Antonio Spurs. They just shouldn't. They've been incredible against the spread. They've been good against, on the road, 13-11 on the season. I like them even money here. And we'll go from them to another even money team here. Speaking of the Thunder, I'm taking them at home against the Indiana Pacers. This is a battle of the bad. Both these teams have struggled over the last 15. The Pacers have won 3 of the last 15. The Thunder have won 2 of the last 15. The Thunder have only beat New York teams. Weird. But other than that, they're going back home. 8 wins at home. Both of them have losing records. Neither of them is very good, so it's hard to talk either of them up. But I know George loves Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I also love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And with no Domantas Sabonis, I think them having the star power will be the difference in this. 2 even money plays for you guys I think we can cash in on. And then we're going to go with another home team here, a team that we did cash on and covered for us 2 days ago, and that's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Rudy Gobert is not playing for the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell looks like he might play. He's questionable. I'm just looking at it now. But the Memphis Grizzlies have just been incredible. John Morant, I love the story about him trying to make sure he got his canceled flight to go home to his grandma's to celebrate his All-Star nomination. Like, there is nothing you cannot like about this man. I'll go to back from every single time. Now, the issue is they played him to a 1-point game the last time. There's a 4.5-point spread from what I'm seeing right now. If you want to take a minus 170 on a money line and then go the 2 even money plays that I just gave you and then go Grizzlies minus 170, I think they win this game, but I do think if Mitchell plays, the Jazz can keep it close. He's good enough to do that for them. So those are the 3 I'm on. And then in terms of a little sprinkle of NFL action real quick for you, we're taking Travis Kelce first touchdown. Plus 700. Baby. Take it to the bank. Bengals can't guard tight ends. Can't guard tight ends.
Check out Betting with Benny and Tino on Game Plus Network and FTN YouTube page. And Eric Young and myself will dive down. Dangle Betselli is live at 1:45 Eastern. You can catch that on our FTN YouTube page as well. We'll dive deeper into that hockey. It won't be so much rapid fire. I appreciate you all for hanging out this week. Enjoy the football. We'll be back on Monday. Cheers.